What initially began as the edgy anti-Disney and Pixar studio made solely to stick its finger up to the iceberg that Walt is living in, Dreamworks Animation have been responsible for some genuinely excellent 2D and 3D films when all they cared about was being better than Michael Rat. And then Shrek happened. I don't think anybody predicted how massive Shrek would become, even Dreamworks themselves. And if you're asking me, they ended up worse than the company they were already making fun of. Countless celebrity voice actors to bump up ticket sales, chart-topping pop songs for the soundtrack, pop culture references so dated that they brought your granny back to life and murdered her again, and of course, the inevitable, the inescapable video game tie-ins.
When Shrek 1 came out, I was 6 years old, so at the height of Dreamworks' popularity, I was the prime target demographic for all the video games that started flooding in, all based on our favourite, lovable, timeless children's films. I played so many of these games back then, so I thought it'd be fun to revisit them today. But the scary thing is that I don't remember liking any of them.
I mean, give Disney their dues, they at least have plenty of great titles across all consoles that you can imagine. But DreamWorks Animation games, they were absolutely everywhere in the early to mid 2000s. You couldn't escape them. They were like a fart in a car wash. But barely any of them were any good. Barely any of them have given me fond memories. And today, we're gonna find out why that is, aside from the obvious reasons.
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna get this over with, because I haven't been able to stop thinking about that face for 3 weeks. So let's start off with Sharktail for the Xbox.
Behind every little fish is a great white lie. What? You mean like this game being a 7 out of 10? The disc boots up and we get to see a pus spot with legs pulling on a chain, and looking at it makes me feel sore and itchy. The first screen has this, and this on it, so we're off to a great start. But I mean, at least the main menu screen looks pretty cool. I also really like the transition screens between all the different levels. This looks really cool. I just wish I didn't get to see this shark's gums. I feel very uncomfortable. There is such a thing as too much gum, and that is it. The first mission of the game is essentially a glorified QuickTime event. You see an arrow and move towards it. Nothing more to it. So we dodged the shark for a while, unable to decide which fish I'm supposed to be scared of, and then we did it. I guess that was the end of that. Turns out we were only dreaming though, big shock, and so we're treated to a cutscene with plenty of full screen shots of the fish faces, which is closer than anyone should ever be. So Will Smith Fish over here, who's not voiced by Will Smith in the game, is late on his rent again, so unfortunately we're now being repossessed, which can only mean one thing: another minigame. Luckily it isn't another QuickTime event, but it isn't exactly thrilling. You spin in circles around your belongings thrown out of the window to catch them while listening to Ziggy Marley. I'm not sure what's more sad though, the fact that we're now technically homeless, or that somebody opened a shop that's very nearly Wang's Delicious. Oh, finally! 3 levels in and we can finally explore the ocean, which is exactly what the back of the box told me I could do. Okay, we can't.
This is the first game I'm looking at.
I can't move. What's going on? This game controls like urinary incontinence. It's just constantly freaking out and completely unable to hold itself. This is easily the most spastic movement I've ever seen in a game, and that's when you aren't getting stuck in every crevice you can find. Moving is uncontrollable, and trying to attack enemies with specific weak points is a pipe dream. It either doesn't register the attack, or you get snagged on some other random speck of algae in the sea to stop you from moving. What are the enemies in this game? Well, whatever the game decides is an enemy. Seriously, the enemies are barely distinguishable from the other innocent civilian fish, and when they are a little bit more obvious, they appear from off-camera all the time. So here I am exploring the ocean streets as best as I can for this stage. However, there are not only multiple path diversions to flip the x-axis, but there are also invisible walls everywhere, making it impossible to get a mental map of this giant level in your head. Even with a map feature, which even has bends in it. Bends in a 2D game. I have no idea which direction I'm supposed to be moving on this thing. Also, to get your health back, you go inside houses and then come out again covered in hearts, which means that somebody in that house is going down on this. Next level time, and we've got a cutscene here explaining that there have been shark sightings near the city, and since Will Smith Fish is the closest one to talk to, he gets asked on TV how he feels about this. After this is another game basically exactly the same as the intro missions, but you're going away from the screen instead of towards it, and this is followed by the worst stealth mission I have ever played, because you can go as fast as you want and alert as many guards as you want, as long as you hide immediately afterwards, wait for about 2 seconds, and then speed off again right into the front of everyone's vision. The entire level lasts for just over 30 seconds. I'm not kidding. Sharktail is a classic example of throwing everything at the wall and nothing sticking. It's a kid's game, so you gotta give them the variety or they'll get bored too quickly, but I don't care about that. I'd rather have one gameplay style done right, thanks.
And all of these issues wouldn't be so bad. But this game is so damn ugly!
Ugly, ugly, ugly. Even the health bar face picture is ugly. How do you even do that? At least we're all underwater right now, because that means you can't see the tears in my eyes.
So do you want to know how to ruin somebody's day in 2 steps? It's easy. Step 1, give them Shrek Treasure Hunt on PS1. And step 2, remind them about Blue Waffle.
Right off the bat, I'm not exactly a fan of Fiona's face right here. She looks like she just realised who she shares a bed with. Okay, so as it turns out, the person I eBayed this game from didn't look after the disc very well. But because of that, all the cutscenes are a little bit terrible. It's okay though, because we can still get to the menus, and judging by this music, it sounds like we're off to Shrek's funeral. Maybe the intro cutscene won't be as borked as the other ones though. I feel optimistic, so what's the story here?
Princess Fiona arrived.
Oh. She did?
And you know what? The funeral procession song at the start menu was fitting, because this game is dead on arrival. My lord, this frame rate. Is this a video game or a book? I'm stunned that this looks and runs as poor as it does for a PS1 game released in 2002, because I've got 10 blocks of G's to find. This then unlocks a room for me to go into in order to play a mini-game, and the name of this mini-game is Purgatory, because it never actually loaded, and this drowning bug in the corner was left to slowly die in its own filth forever. We're in, and aren't I glad I finally got it working? No, because this game is my armpit. Shrek for the PS1 is a weird platforming party game hybrid, where in the platforming moments you can run and jump. No, that's it. Enemy coming your way? Tough luck, sunshine, you can't attack back. But then again, they can't really hurt you either, they just kind of knock you to the floor. What's the point of any of these sections? I really don't know. You collect items to unlock more mini-games, but since the item collecting part is a smelly pit of nothing where you can't do anything and takes so long to collect anything, it might as well just be a level select. And I'd rather it be a level select, because this part of the game is as appealing as soap scum. Even if you took this part of the game away though, it ultimately doesn't matter. The mini-games you unlock are at best unimaginative and at worst totally wretched. From copying simple button presses to moving your cursor over to a ripple in the water to catch fish and reel them in. This is one of the worst games I've ever played, and I'm not even exaggerating. Just to give you an idea how unenjoyable this whole package is, you could spend up to 15 minutes wandering aimlessly around this jittery wasteland with no obstacles to avoid, looking for random items, only to unlock a terrible minigame that lasts all of 20 seconds, and then you're back at the slideshow again. Or you could do exactly the same thing and then be treated to a minigame that lasts yet another 15 minutes, not because it's deep or fun, but because it just doesn't get to the point. Oh look, Shrek has something to tell me. What's that? Oh great, this frame rate is making me ill. I can't be the only one getting eye ache here, can I?
Wait a second. That isn't a bee. It's a hand passing me B-movie on the...
Ah yes, from one meme to another, what better way to rinse my brain out than with jumping 2 console generations from PS1 to Xbox 360. Contains no material likely to offend or harm. Thanks for the warning, B-movie. I never would have figured. So B-Movie the video game was developed by the developers of Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled, Beanox, and I'm convinced that they were picked for the sake of a pun and nothing else.
Oh, and don't worry, that is not the only B pun they have. I've got some too.
I hadn't heard about the video game.
It's both challenging and entertaining.
Well, you know what, lady? You're a lying cow. Because this is without a doubt one of the easiest games I think I've ever played. You get an achievement for getting into a car. No, not driving the car, getting inside the car. And you even get an achievement for pressing the left trigger. I wish I was making that up. You can hijack any car in the whole game, actually. This is more or less a kid-friendly version of BTA. Even better, there's no consequences for that either. You can even steal cars that are already being driven, and the bee that you take it from just drops whatever he's doing and becomes your chaperone. You know what this game reminds me of sometimes? Banjo-Kazooie. Well, I mean, I'm assuming it's a collectathon at least, because to be honest, I didn't really play the game. It was way more fun to break it into pieces. That is, of course, when the game isn't pestering me every 30-odd seconds, yelling at me to go to an objective marker. Come on, you give me this huge world to explore and won't shut up until I comply? I'm afraid I'm gonna have to be a naughty man and disobey. Just gonna drive a little bit further, push you into the corner, and yeah, I think I'll leave you there. You know what? All the residents of this hive are totally screwed up now that I think about it. I mean, what in the blazes is going on over here? Hello? Are you melting? Okay, so I hijack this guy's car, force him to crazy taxi me over to my objective, and that was a grave error because now he's following me to the ends of the earth and is stuck in the lift with me to continue the story. I'm terrified. He looks like he's about to unhinge his jaw and swallow me. After this, I decided to actually try playing the game, and once I ignored my surroundings and went from point to point, that's when I noticed that this is a job simulator, and it is horrifically dull. I get it, they want me to fit in with the hive and do my job like a good little subservient worker bee, but I'm one step ahead of you, game. I don't want to be like every other bee, so I'm going to go back to my boring house to watch boring TV and look at boring pictures of myself duplicated 3 times on the same boring table. Oh look, it's another game where I have to move away from attacks as arrows appear on the screen. Is that feeling deja vu? Or have I eaten too many olives again?
At least after this, you get to go outside and explore the park with a pollination gun, sucking up all the pollen on the flowers, spraying it all over the dying flowers, and fighting off dragonflies. There's just one problem with this, though.
The game turns into Elvis Presley before he died, unable to move properly. A PS1 game of Shrek I could at least understand the choppy frame rate for, I suppose. But this? Are you telling me the Xbox 360 is struggling to run this frog? This performance makes this part of the game unplayable, especially when the camera has a total mind of its own.
I'm gonna move on to the next game, I think.
Moving on to Shrek again, but this time on the Gamecube, here is Shrek Superslam. The game begins with Donkey trying desperately to get his dragon-donkey hybrid offspring to sleep. After that, we see Shrek reading some bedtime stories to try getting the kids to sleep. You then discover that this is, in the simplest of terms, 3D Smash Brothers. You spend all of the matches mixing light and strong attacks together, grabbing and throwing opponents, picking up weapons and guarding into dodge rolls. And for a little difference to Smash Bros, you have to land successful hits to build up a Smash meter, which, when full, gives you a limited time to activate a unique Smash attack for each character. For each person you hit, you get a point, and if you get hit by someone else's Smash attack, you lose a point. Yes, believe it or not, this is actually a mechanic that PS All-Stars tried to do, but if you ask me, it did it worse. Instead of collecting Smash attack orbs from beat up players and then losing your own orbs if you get beat up yourself, meaning that you could go back and forth for hours before anybody gets a single point, this game just lets you focus on landing hits and avoiding hits in a fast-paced race to see how many times you can build up your Smash meter and get a point by hitting the opponent. It's very simple, to the point, easy to pick up. The chaos that unfolds whenever you smash other players can be extremely enjoyable. There's tons of different challenges to complete to unlock new characters for the multiplayer, including Humpty Dumpty with the greatest idle animation of all time. And since there's no singular plot to go through with one narrative, the story mode has some genuinely entertaining scenarios for all the fights, just because they make them up as they go along. I played this game for hours when I was 11 on the PS2, and I can totally understand why. It's a decent game. But yeah, the story mode, unless you want to play something so easy that it makes you feel like a fetus, I wouldn't bother.
Speaking of fetuses, Over the Hedge on the Xbox. Because that's where I throw the fetuses.
The game starts with the lowest quality JPEG logo I've ever seen, followed by the game saving my save game. After this, you know what? I don't know. You get no explanation on what's going on. It's been years since I've seen this movie, so if I had to guess, this is the ending of the movie that we're starting on. But Christ on a bike, how do you think that idea came up? Yeah, the game just throws you into the middle of a story and doesn't contextualize anything. You're breaking into a house for some reason, smashing up the garden for some reason, and then stealing food for some reason. This goes completely wrong, and then the game's second story begins with you having to go and steal more food for some reason. Either this game has no plot or Kojima wrote it. This was another game I remember playing for hours as a kid, and after revisiting this classic from my childhood, I don't get why. Not because it's a bad game or anything, but because it's so boring. What you have here is a basic beat 'em up with puzzles. You get given a dump truckload of levels here. Some of them are about 10 minutes, some of them are 90 seconds, and there are plenty of one-off minigame levels just like in Sharktail. But the big difference here is the main game connecting these moments together. This is a 3D beat 'em up with extremely light platforming. You run painfully slowly, you jump, you hit things with one button, you have a special attack button that you need to build up, you can find armor to use and get extra weapons that last not very long, and you have no control over the camera. But like, it's not awful, it works, it looks fine, it's just so by the numbers it's upsetting, and there's absolutely no flourishes anywhere. Was there supposed to be sound there? There's no special transitions between the levels, there's no fancy animations on the text, and even during the game, none of the weapons feel like they have any oomph to them at all. In fact, what was it that I said earlier?
Not because it's a bad game or anything.
Well, no, I take that back. This game sucks. Unless the objective tells you to, you can ignore everything everywhere and run by to the end of the stage, only to be greeted with,
"We're all meeting at the end of the street. See you there."
The greatest lip syncing I think I've ever seen, so I'm gonna throw over the hedge, over the hedge.
This is Hammy Goes Nuts, an exclusive for the Nintendo DS. Featuring Hammy. Just when you thought it was safe to go back to the burbs, he saw you. And if that wasn't enough to turn you away, then maybe the most horrifying intro cutscene I've ever seen will. What's with this hairy meatloaf slowly and creepily nibbling away at this tree? I feel like I'm about to be jump scared. There are 3 save games already on this cartridge, and not a single one bothered to play the game past 0%. Oh, and the music on these menus has really kicked up a gear. I'm starting to get hyped now. Do you want to know how Hammy did indeed go nuts? Well, I'll tell you. By controlling everyone else other than Hammy and doing exactly the same stuff as the Xbox version of the game but without any fighting, running 3 times slower, this game is just insipid. There's nothing to it. You drag yourself agonizingly slowly around the area like you're pulling a lawnmower backwards. You tap on an item to pick it up, wait for the game to show you exactly where you need to put the item, and that's it. This is a puzzle game where the puzzle is already solved. And if the game doesn't show you where to go, it's okay, because that means the item belongs less than a foot away from where it was supposed to be already. Hammy Goes Nuts for the DS is just like my pencil. There's no point. Why is it even called Hammy Goes Nuts? It's got nothing to do with Hammy on his own or his nuts. Did they just use Hammy's name and face to sell copies? Was he the most marketable character? Do kids really like this face? Or the inside flesh of a squirrel's cheeks?
Hey, does anybody remember Turbo? The Dreamworks animated classic? Turbo? Well, they made a game about it. I don't know how to transition to it.
Ah, look! It's Turbo. The snail.
Turbo. Superstar Squad, baby.
I need a parent.
I honestly don't care what any of this stuff does. It makes sense that this is a racing game, so let's just go straight into a tournament. Right, so who do I pick here? Burn, Turbo, Whiplash, or Smooth Move? Now for a more important question. Do I want bad stats, or bad stats with one stat that isn't as bad as the other stats? Yeah, I think I'll go with that one. I'm on the start line, I'm ready to go, and... oh my god. I've played some bad kart racing games in my time, but I honestly think this one may be the worst I've ever touched. Do I even need to explain why? One of the most important things you need to nail in any kart racer before anything is how it feels to drive. You can't be too realistic like it's a driving simulator, but not so wacky that it's uncontrollable. You hold accelerate to go forward at one speed, and then turn to the direction you want in order to change where your forward is going towards. That is really it. It is so rigid. There's no slipping or sliding, no weight. The back of the box doesn't lie either. Instead of selling the game to you, it just tells you 2 things that the game has. You can race, and you can pick a character. Yep, that is all you can do. To be fair, yeah, that is the only 2 things the game has going for it, but if the back of the box doesn't give a shit, then why should I? Oh, by the way, favorite characters? Oh yes, from the animated classic that everyone remembers so fondly, my favorite characters were Roly Poly and Eyes on a Dick. Supermarket trolleys move with more grace than these things, and I'm not even sure if I'm doing something wrong or if the game is just awful. So here we go, Antz Extreme Racing for the PS2. Don't ask me how he got into Extreme Racing, I think it might have been the crack. Okay, so this is the best idea for a racer I've ever heard. You take a movie not necessarily made for kids, all about communism, propaganda, individuality, the politics of war, and exploitation of the working class for the benefit of the self-proclaimed strongest, and then turn it into a kart racer for toddlers. Now, you may think that £3 isn't that much for a PS2 racing game based on the movie Antz, but this is actually the most I paid for any of the games in this video so far, so my expectations are through the roof. Okay, I know I jest, but you know what? I actually think this is the best game we have so far. I'm stunned. Or should I say... stung. As ridiculous as the idea of a kart racer based on the Antz movie is, I'm shocked at how good this game is for a kart racer that was universally hated when it came out. I mean, sure, everything else around the gameplay sucks a little bit, like the bland menus, barely any voice acting, and terrible soundtrack that doesn't fit with anything going on the screen. But the rest of it I really think is well done. You've got multiple vehicle types for races, allowing you to drive, climb, board, run, or fly. Great controls for all of those types that all feel different from each other. You get really great tracks with creative obstacles and plenty of shortcuts. You get kick-ass power-ups like the oh-so-satisfying boost. You get some really damn good graphics for a 2002 PS2 game. I mean, look at these character models. And if you get hit, the responsive and zippy control style even allows you to correct the spin-out. This is a good game we have here. Check out the level of detail even. All the cars are being powered by slave insects, and all the wheels are made from shirt buttons and eraser heads. There's a gag at the end of every race too, showing you what position you came against every other ant in your colony. Basically, if you can get your head around how stupid the idea of a Sylvester Stallone and Christopher Walken kart racing game is, I really think you might like this one. A 3-lap driving race in the rain. Can't really make any jokes about this one. It's a solid racing game.
Up next, we have Kung Fu Panda on the Xbox 360, jumping back up a generation. But before we get into it, I just wanted to quickly show you a free-to-play 3D online turn-based multiplayer battle game that came out at the same time as the movie.
It was called Poe's Kung Fu Challenge, and it looks like that feeling you get when you step on Lego. And now the 360 version. This game is essentially a hack and slash platformer with light and heavy attacks that you can mix together into combos, special moves that require energy to use, weapons that do immense damage but break very quickly, a guard, and a roll. So imagine if Bayonetta was made for 5-year-olds instead of people with the horn. Now, aside from a terrible first impression and the jank present in some of the graphics, this isn't actually all that bad. I mean, it's simple, it is a kid's game after all, but I can think of worse ways to ease a kid into the world of Devil May Cry. There's even upgrades you can purchase in between the stages with the coins that you find, and after one level, I decided to invest everything into a fully powered belly flop. Wanna know why? This snaps the game like a twig. I'm murdering every small enemy in one single flop. But come on, it is incredibly satisfying. Even if you don't want to do that, you can always roll into a ball and bowl everyone over. Do you think that a giant wooden hand endlessly thrusting against a wall would be covered in your rent? Overall, Kung Fu Panda, I'm pleasantly surprised. You're okay. You're nothing more than okay, but you are okay.
Do you want to know how to train your dragon? Well, if you do, there's a video game that will teach you. Twice.
So why am I playing How to Train Your Dragon 2 and not the first one? Believe it or not, it's because I couldn't actually find the original on any secondhand stores online in time for this video. Maybe it's a rare game or something, I don't know. But what I do know is that the first game's box art makes it look like Toothless is flying through an anus, so I'm glad I'm not playing it. You've got to love the box art for the sequel though. Make Toothless fly in the other direction. And that's it. So what's going on in this game then? Little Bit? Oh, Little Orbit, thank Christ. So after a little tutorial with perhaps the most annoying guide I've ever heard, we then get to fly through rings. Oh dear. But the question is, who do I pick? The dragon with a low, annoying ringing noise, or the dragon with a high, annoying ringing noise? After the tutorial, you're then left to your own devices to explore the giant island of Berg, that's actually what it's called, and you know what? This feels great to play. The graphics aren't exactly handsome, but the performance rarely drops, and the flying controls make you feel like you are darting around on the back of a real dragon. But once you start following objective markers and getting into the actual game, it unfortunately sucks its thumb and dumps. Out of the entire 45 minutes I played, I had one game of breaking targets and one game of grabbing sheep to put them in different sheep houses, but the rest of them was nothing but flying through rings. Lapped races while flying through rings, time trials while flying through rings, sheep stealing while flying through rings. I am fine with a few ring courses, especially for a flying game like this, but nearly every single match of anything I played here was just flying through rings. I know the back of the box says that it's mainly a racing game, so maybe I was expecting too much, but if this was a racing game first and foremost, they could have at least staved off the repetition by giving me different courses to fly across, not flying through rings on the same island over and over again, often with other dragons who love to throw you off your dragon, and yes, it is very funny. How to Train Your Dragon 2, coming to theaters on World Deaf Day, and then we sat down together and played Shrek 2 on the Gamecube. I was gonna take a look at this Shrek game on the Game Boy Advance, but one look at this bloated cucumber was enough to make me change my mind. And so we move on to the Gamecube again with Shrek 2, another game I spent hours on as a kid playing co-op with my sister on the original Xbox. This is about as standard as you'd expect for a game about a green woman with a dress that you can look up. It follows the movie more or less exactly with linking storybook segments, and gives you a lot of varied levels where you switch between up to 4 characters at once with unique abilities and special moves in order to work together, solve basic puzzles, collect items, fight enemies, and knock off objectives from a checklist during the level. Like mugging Robin Hood in the forest. Also, these cutscenes aren't very good. Oh, and another thing, the partner AI in Shrek 2, it's as dumb as bricks. I mean, look at this. I'm heading off to the top left here, the way I'm supposed to go, and then all 3 of the other characters just bugger off and leave me to go the direction that we already came from. One thing I do kind of like, though, happens at the end of each stage. Every playable character gets a go at least once in the game, and they're a pretty humorous way to end things off. Unless, of course, it's the most annoying thing in the world. I am not a fan of the minigames involving Shrek having to pick up and throw things, though. They reuse this game way more than they have any right to, and they are so slow. In fact, the whole game in general is pretty slow. What is it with Dreamworks games and either being so fast I have a seizure or so slow that my arteries clog and my heart stops? I'm starting to get sick of this speed. You move as fast as crawling maggots, and it makes the simplest and most elementary of jumps feel almost impossible sometimes. To conclude though, I mean, Shrek 2, it's still alright as a movie tie-in game. I mean, you throw chickens into a pot to boil them alive and pop the eyeballs out of slugs to eat them. I can't hate a game that does that.
What have we got next then? Shrek Super Party, another Shrek game?
I mean, the game doesn't look too bad so far. There's nice FMV at least. And I know beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but that doesn't apply if your head is the size of Saturn.
Shrek just wants to be left alone.
And the best way to do that is by getting together in a big gang in order to play multiple fecal minigames to win bugs and then trade them with opponents in order to match high-numbered bugs together and then do nothing with all of the bugs. Shrek Super Party, if you couldn't tell, is Mario Party, but with a very important twist that makes it stand out. It's bad. You move around a board, activate minigames and battles, and make events happen by landing on certain spaces. Oh no, I'm about to die. The only issue with all of this, though, is... okay, that's a lie, there's thousands of issues, but one of the many is that you get a choice to pick a totally different board from everyone else, for starters. So that feeling of competition as you pass each other and interact on the same board is non-existent. Like Pinocchio's soul.
It's time for an epic battle.
Donkey rolls a 9, but then only moves like one space and then has to give all his bugs away. Lord Farquaad is eating his own face. There's absolutely no surprise elements because every space and what's on them is shown to you before you make the roll. The dragon looks like it was made from cardboard boxes. There's no sabotages you can perform or different directions you can travel for strategy when landing on certain places. Donkey's jaw is dislocated, and the entire game ends after an hour of stupid boredom with nothing but a poxy 6-second cutscene. Shrek. You may have Mario's weight, but you'll never have his spirit. Or his tash, so give it up. So, what do you do when you have too many characters to work with? You stick them all in a kart racer. What else? Look, you get to play as all of your favorite characters like Marty, Alex, Shrek, Donkey, and you had better make sure to spell karts with a Z. So I'm picking the only circuit race that's available to me. All good there. And which character should I be? Hiccup, Skipper, Donkey, Bob, Alex, or Shrek, who can barely fit in his own cart with his knees knobbling out and doesn't even look like he wants to be here? Do you want to know what playing Dreamworks Super Star Kartz is like? Very simple. It's Mario Kart, but not fun. The drifting feels terrible, like you're spreading butter on a lumpy bit of bread, and the turning feels as restrictive as anything. I mean, I can forgive a lot of unoriginality in a kart racer, but if the core of the game, the driving, doesn't even feel vaguely fun, what's the point in playing it? Am I driving go-karts or cutting paper with blunt scissors? This is horrible.
Oh, and by the way, I just unlocked Toothless.
Look at the state of this. Just look at the state of this. Why was this put here? Who greenlit this idea? And why does he sound like that time you heard your neighbors going at it through the wall? This here is 150cc. This is the fastest that Dreamworks Super Star Kartz will let you go. I thought 150cc stood for your engine power, not 150 crappy crepes. Welcome to Madagascar, the movie, the game. A beautiful world where children wear hats bigger than their own bodies, living dinosaurs eat policemen, and poo in the toilet is green. My god, what did they eat? This game was developed by Toys for Bob, and yes, boys and girls, the same team responsible for the brilliant Spyro Reignited trilogy also made Madagascar on the Gamecube, and they had a theme song that sounded like a load of puking clowns running after you. Just like Shrek 2, Madagascar takes us through a revised retelling of the plot of the movie, and the first stage sees us playing as Marty the Zebra, exploring the New York City Zoo while collecting coins and power cards, the things that you need to unlock new abilities and progress through the game. The thing is though, you don't actually unlock anything. You get it for the single level you're on and every level after that, but with no other level whatsoever, which murders the replayability. If you play any stage of Madagascar, you are playing the exact same stage in the exact same way. Even if you finish the game and go back to level 1 to grab something you might have missed, you lose every ability and need to unlock them within the same stage and get the stupid cards all over again. Even better, the way you collect these things is insultingly easy. They're basically always in a line next to each other, so why bother with this system at all? Why not just give me a new power-up for every stage? Maybe Alex the Lion will cheer me up a little bit. Ah, look at that. We collect more cards, unlock a double jump, and then roar at the top of the podium. Off we go to Gloria the Hippo, and she's talking to some ostriches that want to race her. We start the race off, and someone somewhere is really happy right now. Madagascar is as basic as a platforming collectathon adventure game as you get. It's a mid-2000s movie tie-in game for the PS2 era. There is nothing special about it. You control one character at a time, they all have different abilities and control styles, and that is all she wrote. I'll be repeating myself if I go into any more depth. I'd say though it has more effort put into it over something like Over the Hedge though. I mean, it looks decent, there's loads of mini-games you can purchase with the coins that you find in the levels, there's cosmetics to earn, there's even hidden arcade arcade machines in the city for more games to play. There's definitely effort here for a game that nobody would have expected anything out of. The entire game is purely passable, nothing else. And even though it's fine, it leaves no impact on anything. Unlike Gloria when she sits down.
Shrek 1 for the Xbox. What's that? The game doesn't work? They remade it for the Gamecube.
Everything about this box art makes me want to vomit. I don't like this man's face, I don't like the eggs with mouths, I don't like Shrek's single pointy tooth, and I especially don't like the close-up on the back. Did anybody really need to be so close to Shrek that they could see his greasy sausage fingerprints? Even the title is revolting. Shrek Extra Large? Oh, wow. Oh, just wow. What a lovely menu. Aren't you glad they remade the original Xbox exclusive for the GameCube so that more console owners could see what they were missing out on? I guess all we can do here is hit start then. What's my name? Voof. Oh, I am so happy with my career choices right now.
And those burps being used as selection noises? Best part of the game. What, you think I'm joking? Fine, here it is. Take a look for yourself.
Yes, this silent void of unhappiness with 1996 PC textures, no sound at all, and a frame rate as smooth as sandpaper is Shrek Extra Large on the GameCube. I want to let each move Shrek has in this game shine by itself, because goddammit, nothing else is shining right now. The analog stick lets you run, and Shrek runs around as gracefully as an angry honey badger. The B button makes you kick, and someone decided that the sound effect for the kick should play over and over again even if you aren't kicking anything. This is what she sees. I swear this is the best bit of the game by far. Zooming in the camera and locking it in place makes this already hideous game look like a Picasso painting if he sniffed glue before painting it. The Penguins of Madagascar in Dr. Blowhole returns again. With his blowhole. This here, my lumpies and germs, is the first Kinect game I've ever played, which was not only the best introduction I think I could have ever wished for, but also means I'm now opening myself up to every other flawless Kinect adventure at some point in the near future. Pray for me. Okay, well, as far as first impressions go, this thing isn't too bad. It looks kind of cool at least. It works fine on the main dashboard for the Xbox 360, and check this out. I'm a video game now. But then I played this game, and the fun stopped. Here is what happened. Please enjoy.
Hello everybody, I am popping my Kinect cherry. I don't know what to expect, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Now, why don't you tell me your name?
Oh, okay, we're leaning. We're leaning for the ice cream. Okay, right. I jumped! It did a jump, I'm amazed.
There's a chameleon right here.
If there's a chameleon right there, it's not a very good chameleon, is it? This is insipid. This is so boring. I can see why this is a kid's game, because if anybody over the age of 30 tries to do this, they will end up on the floor with major back pain. Now what am I doing? Oh no, why? Why is that an oh no? Do you want me to bend over backwards and stick my head through my legs? I can do that if you want me to, game. Why did I get it wrong the last time? I thought that said terrible for a second and I would have agreed with it. Okay, go to the pigeon, throw. Go to the pigeon, throw. Go to the pigeon. We're playing a Kinect game for children and I'm now being asked trivia questions about wildlife. This is exactly what I wanted. Not only did I want to stand up from the sofa and not hold a controller, but I wanted to go to school. I think even more importantly, why does a quiz require bodily movement? Why do I need to use my feet? God damn it, I'm already losing my bearings on where I am anyway. That picture? That sums up everything. That sums up my feelings. It sums up this game. It sums up the Kinect. That is as raw and as natural as a reaction as you're going to get, because I didn't know they were taking a picture. Yeah, I think we can pretty much end it there, don't you think?